Hello, stellar people, and welcome back to the channel, where today is the finale of summer study, where we will do a recap while also making a dummy. So now let's talk about the dummy. The point of this video is to make a dummy using what we learned from the anatomy of the bones and the muscles. And a dummy is great for posing a character that you're making, because we don't always want to have just a standard forward facing or side facing 3/4 turned character. We want to help, have it dynamism and movement in our work, and making a dummy for that is a great thing to have. So my drawings usually start off really, really rough, and then I refine it as I go. So this was just a stand-in, just to figure out, okay, just riffing off the cuff. This is normally how I draw. But let's break down some things that we have for, say, the head. So for the head of a 3/4 turn, we would have the hairline, which would be near the top. We have the eye line, and then just above that would be your eyebrow ridge. And between the eye line and the chin would be the nose line. And between the nose and the chin is the mouth line. And between the nose and the eyebrow ridge usually are your ears. Some people have small ears, some people have larger ears, but it's somewhere between the eye line and the eyebrow ridge and the nose is where your ears sits. And we have the mandible, which comes down and comes forward for the chin. The mandible is your lower jaw, and it attaches to your head, your skull proper. Usually there's a side plane in this 3/4 view, and that helps me to distinguish where light can hit. Can the light hit here? Then this will be lit. This will be less lit. And then the far side would be in shadow. And that just helps me define the head. Usually putting a center line also helps. And that's just the very briefest of heads for our dummy. But also let's look at, this will be the next, a very simplified protoform of the dummy, which is mostly just sticks, a ball for a head, an egg for the rib cage, and a box for the pelvis. And then where there are hinges or movement for your arms and legs, your limbs, make circles as anchor points to indicate where that bend would occur. And this is a standard protoform. And if you're building up, usually you can start with this, especially when you're doing more complex figures. Starting off with just a base protoform stick figure with the simple shapes is a great way to start. But then we can move up to a basic shapes dummy. Basic shapes dummy has cylinders instead of sticks for the limbs. Again, circle, and you give the basic head shape. A neck, again, the egg shape for the rib cage. A box could be for the pelvis. The circles, again, for your joints to indicate where movement, bends can occur. And cylinders to flesh out the form. And here we have a more fleshed out version of a dummy. And usually they can be between 6, 7 heads tall, or 6.5, 7 heads tall, depending on what your dummy is. So say a normal person can be 6 heads, or say a superhero could be 6.5, 7, even 8. And then beyond that, giants and whatever else you want to draw. very tall people. It depends on what you are going for. But again, we have fleshed out, right? We have fleshed out this dummy. We have a more developed head instead of just a simple ball. The rib cage, box for a pelvis. But all of this helps to get to something more defined as a stand-in for the human. So first, let's talk about what we went over before, and that was mostly anatomy of the skeleton and the muscles. So let's talk about the skeleton. Of course, we have the skull, the rib cage, clavicles, which goes across. We have the humerus bone, the two bones of the forearm, which is the ulna, closer to your body, and the radius, which can cross over the ulna to help you have rest flexibility. We have the spine, which is your through line through the body. You have the pelvis. The pelvis goes into the femur, which is a very long, strong, dense bone for your legs, your upper legs. Your patella, which is your kneecap, and then the tibia and fibula. Tibia on the inside, fibula on the outside of your lower leg. But we also went over muscles. And for the major muscles that we have here, trapezius, we have the deltoid, which is your shoulder, the pectoralis, which is in the middle of your chest, pectoralis major. There's a lot of ones underneath. For your core, you have your latissimus dorsi on the back, the serratus anterior, which is like a lightning bolt. We have the external obliques going from your lower ribs down into your pelvis area. We have the rectus abdominis, upper and lower. Upper make your six-pack, and the lower connects to the lower pelvic area. For the arm, we have the tricep on the back, the brachialis on the side, I believe. We're going to check this. And the bicep on the front. Bicep, brachialis, tricep on the back. We have a lot of muscles for the forearm, a lot of extensors, a lot of flexors. We have the brachioradialis here. We have of the thigh, the sartorius coming across, connecting from the head, the forward facing of your pelvis down across towards your kneecap. Gracilis, what is it? Is it the adductor? I remember the rectus femoris. The vastus, which is vastus medialis. Medialis. Vastus lateralis on the outside. For the lower leg, the tibialis, gastrocnemius, which is your calf, there's a medial head and a lateral head on the back that is unseen. A lot of fibularis muscles, but let's look at some of those more in depth. So let's do a quick review of the torso. The torso bones being the spine, which is that pillar of your body, ribs or the rib cage, clavicle that goes across for your shoulders, the scapula, which is on the back, and it's a triangular bone, flat bone. Here are the torso muscles, the trapezius, which is on the upper neck, your neck to about your mid-spine, and it's more of a diamond shape I usually think of. For your shoulders, and it comes in towards the middle of your spine. Pectoralis major, front. Rectus abdominis, the upper and the lower, six-pack and the lower that goes into your groin. Serrates anterior, which is this lightning bolt-shaped muscles. The latissimus dorsi in green, which covers a lot of your back, but also can be seen slight from the front. External obliques covers the majority of your side and lower and attaches to your pelvis. Those are the muscles of the torso. Of the upper bone of your arm, this is the humerus, but it's not funny when you hit it, which is how I try to remember it. And at the head, it is attached to the clavicle and the scapula, which is on the back. And that attaches, and this is your upper arm bone. And the muscles, bicep, brachialis, tricep, are the major muscles of your upper arm. And the deltoid, which sits above that. Of the pelvic bones, we have the spine, and then the sacrum, the coccyx, just a small piece here, the ilium wings, which is the largest bit of the pelvic bone, the acetabellum in red, which attaches to your thigh or your femur proper, the superior pubic ramus, the inferior pubic ramus, and the ischium that goes back and behind for the back part of the pelvis. And the connecting muscles are the rectus abdominis, the lower part, which would come down to about here, the external obliques along the ilium wings, and then a lot of thigh connecting muscles. And we'll check those out when we look at the thigh. For the thigh, there is the femur, which is the large bone, a very large, strong, dense bone of your thigh. Attaches to your pelvis and to your lower leg. Of those muscles, there are many. And on the front, we have the tensor fasciae lata in green, sartorius, that comes across, attaching from the front part of the pelvis down towards the inside of your kneecap. The vastus lateralis in gold on the outside, lateral on the outside. Vastus intermedius in orange, but it's underneath this very large muscle on the very front of your thigh called the rectus femoris. Rectus femoris. So the vastus intermedius is under this. The vastus medialis is on the inside of your thigh. Then there's quadricep tendon that attaches to your patella, which is your kneecap. But then there's also all these connecting muscles to the pubic area and your inner thigh. Iliopsoas here, purple, or a light purple. Pectineus here. Adductor longus in purple. The gracilis in blue. Adductor magnus in pink. Only a little bit can be seen from the front, but mostly from the back. So on the back of the thigh, there's a gluteus minimus here, the upper part of your pelvis. And there's this large muscle called the gluteus maximus. The cheeks. The iliotibial tract is on the outside of the thigh. The gracilis, again, on the inside. And it's longer seen from the back than from the front. Adductor magnus, that pink. Semimembranosus is in purple here. Semitendinosus is in brown here. Now we can group these two together for the back part of the leg, and as well as group these two together, the bicep femoris and the bicep femoris long head, short head. Long head is very long, short head, short. And more on the lateral side of the body. And we usually group these, and we can call them the hammies, the hamstrings. So there's a lot of muscles for your thighs, which help in standing and your basic movement and balance. Now for the tibia, the tib-fib, the tibia is the medial bone, a very strong, the more stable beam of your lower leg. While the fibula on the outside, the lateral part of your body, is the fibula. So the tibia, fibia, tib, fib. Check out those muscles of the tibia, fibula. The patella is your kneecap. But we have the tibialis anterior, which is more the center in blue. Fibularis longus. There's a lot of fibularises. Fibularis longus on the outside. Fibularis brevis. Fibularis longus in dark green. Fibularis brevis. Fibularis tertius in gold. And a lot of these muscles become tendons for your foot, as well as the extensor digitorum longus in purple, a light purple, and then the extensor hallucis longus in purple. The gastrocnemius, the calf muscle, can be seen from the front on the inside, the medial part of your lower leg, but is better seen on the back as there's a medial head and a lateral head. Gastrocnemius. The soleus connects on the two sides on the back of your leg. Can be seen here. And then there's the calcanea, the Achilles tendon, which comes from your gastrocnemius down to your heel. And that helps with foot movement. Now let's do the bones of the forearm, which has the bones, the ulna and the radius. The ulna on the inside towards the body. If your hand is by its side with the palm facing forward, the ulna is towards the body. It is wide at the elbow and then tapers down towards the wrist, while the radius does the opposite. It starts at the elbow, slim, and then gets wider at the wrist. And there's a lot of muscles within the forearm that help move your fingers and hands. So they have the brachioradialis, not the brachialis, which is on the upper arm, but the brachioradialis in purple, a very major muscle of the forearm, because you can visibly see it. Especially when you flex your forearm or your hand muscles, your hands, fingers, you can see it moving. The flexor carpi radialis in red. We have the palmaris longus, green. The flexor carpi ulnaris in orange. Pronator teres, yellow. Bicipital aponeurosis is blue, and it helps connect and hold these muscles into place of connecting your upper arm to your lower arm. And then there's a lot of flexor retinaculum and extensor retinaculum, which is almost like a watch band around your wrist. And oconeus, which is on the back side of your, like at the knee, the elbow, connecting your elbow to your humerus. We have the flexor carpi ulnaris again. The extensor digitorum in blue. And a lot of these become tendons in your fingers. Extensor digitorum, brachioradialis, purple. Extensor carpi radialis longus, and a purplish blue. Dark purple, extensor carpi radialis brevis. Again, going into your hand. The adductor pollicis longus in green. Extensor pollicis brevis in a mauve color. But a lot of these move into your hand and become tendons and help with movement of your hand itself and the fingers. So you have a lot of motion, a lot of flexibility. That's why there's a lot of muscles within your forearm. But let's see, to break it down, what would I do? I usually take the brachioradialis and the flexor carpi ulnaris and a bit of this extensor digitorum, because they can be easily seen as you flex your hand and fingers. And so those were the muscles and bones of the body that we did for summer study. So let's hop back to the dummy. Now for the dummy, we can map this all out, right? We went from just basic to a more developed to an even more developed dummy. So let's make one again, knowing what we know now. So let's use this one as an example. So if we're gonna make a dummy, we'll first start with basic circle for head, line, shoulder, which is the clavicle, simulates the clavicle. We have an egg for the rib cage, a box for the pelvis, circles for major joints, and to represent that bend. And so let's say for the let's start with the head. So if we're going to flesh this out, make it an oval. There's the mandible and that. Oh, the side plane. Let's do the side plane. And the center line. The approximate middle would be the eye line, the eyebrow ridge, and the hairline. The nose, the mouth, has a neck. I will make that neck first, just a simple cylinder. The trapezius, learn that it's the back muscle or your shoulder. The deltoid. For your pectoralis, we can make a line. There's the spine. And let's see what else. Pectoralis kind of comes like this because there's the clavicle, the sternum, which is bony plate on the front of your rib cage. And the pectoralis attaches to that and goes and hooks into your humerus. The arms can first start off with cylinders. But we know what the muscles are, right? Which is the bicep, brachialis, and tricep. We have the radiobrachialis, which comes out a little bit and then comes in towards the inside of your wrist. There are extensors and flexors. We have the rectus abdominis, upper, and it comes about, the belly button is just above your pelvis. So just about here. And so that would represent your upper. Six pack can be just divided up. And the lower going into the pelvis. What else? Bicep. Brachioradialis. Extensors and flexors. that. We have the gluteus maximus. We have the sartorius coming from the your pelvic bone, coming down and across the leg and coming to your thigh. We have all these muscle connectors, but we have what? The adductor longus and the gracilis, all of these pectineus, all of those connecting into. But the thigh it feels like it goes fat and comes in like this. So that's how I usually remember to draw it. There is the rectus femoris, vastus medialis, vastus lateralis, the iliotibial tract on the side of the leg, the hammies, a bunch of muscles for the back of the thigh. There's the patella, vastus medialis, vastus lateralis to your thigh. And that would cover this hand mostly. What else? Sartorius coming from here, going inwards. This is pretty fun once I've, done some of the study for the muscles. I kind of get it. For the thigh, the calf, we know there's the gastrocnemius, the medial head. Lateral head isn't very much seen, but we know there's the tibia, which is the main support bone, and the fibula, which supports this main support bone. There's a lot of fibularis longus, tibius anterior. There's a lot of muscles. The soleus, coming down into your ankle. The calcanea, which is your Achilles tendon. We got this. A lot of muscles, a lot of fibularis muscles. Tibialis anterior, the pectineus and all that. The gastrocnemius coming in. Let's go back to the torso. There's the latissimus dorsi for the upper. And then that goes here. Serratus anterior, which is like a lightning bolt, 3 strikes. What else? The external obliques, of course, which is the lower part. Your love handles coming into your pelvis, right? And so we know this. We know the muscles to make this dummy. And anytime we don't, we just look at our little sheet and go, yeah, I remember. Yeah, trapezius, yeah, deltoid. Yeah, pectoralis. The bicep, tricep, brachialis. The brachioradialis, yeah. The rectus femoris, being in the center of the thigh. The sartorius coming across. The vastus lateralis on the outside. The vastus medialis on the inside. Well, no, medialis. No? And anytime I'm unsure, you can go, wait a minute, am I correct on this? Or did I just make all this up? Let me just go down to, yes, vastus medialis. And then there's the intermedialis. I often get these ones confused. Vastus medialis on the inside of the body, vastus lateralis on the outside, vastus intermedius underneath the rectus femoris. Yes, I remember. I often forget the tensor fasciae lata. Okay. Try to remember that. There's a lot of muscles on the inside towards the groin. Iliopsoas, pectineus, adductor longus, the gracilis. all these. And that is what this summer study is supposed to do for me. It's to refresh. So yeah, the vastus medialis, vastus intermedialis, underneath the rectus femoris, the vastus lateralis. You know, they got the pectineus. Yeah, I remember that. The gluteus medialis, or all these bones I'm going to forget very, very quickly. I have a way to come back to it and steady up. But we did it. This is an approximation of the dummy. Try out all these other dummies. And anytime we need a refresher, we can just come back to it, brush up, maybe do a little dummy drawing and a little sketchy sketch, and we're back on the road. This was pretty fun. This is pretty fun. I had been avoiding my studies for quite some time, gotten lax and whatnot. And so I really want to thank you for joining me on this adventure through the world of summer studying the basic anatomy. And, you know, we'll just keep up with it, keep practicing, keep learning. And eventually we'll be pros and we'll know all of this like the back of our hand. And so I'd like to thank you for joining me. Next week will be something totally different. I'm not sure exactly what. But take care, keep shining, power to the creators, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye, take care.